Good morning, it is day 2 of the event window here at stop number 9 on the Samsung Galaxy World Surf League Championship Tour, the Quiksilver and Roxy Pro. And you are watching Dawn Patrol. I'm Ronnie Blakey, thanks for tuning in. We have a big show for you today. First up, we're going to be having a look at the likely locations for this year's event, and then we're going to have Tom Curran, the 3-time world champion, with us on the show. A little later on, we'll have a look at the men's Jeep leaderboard and also have a look at the title race unfolding on the women's side. So stick around for all of that. Right now, though, a pleasure for me to welcome Ross Williams to the show. Morning, Ross.
Morning, Ronnie.
And Strider Wazalewski.
Morning, Ron Dog.
How are you, boys?
Good.
What are we seeing out there? Overnight, obviously, a bump in the swell. Any chance of getting some heats underway today, you think?
Well, I think the waves have been, Strider, you've been here for a while, it's been really small in Europe for about a week now, and so now it's the exact opposite. It's big, it's stormy. There's definitely a lot of energy in the water, but there's no one practicing, put it that way.
Yeah, a bump is 8 to 10 feet and pumping out the back, but there's just a crazy condition, so obviously I don't know if we're going to get a duck dive on today.
Well, pretty interesting just seeing, though, yesterday morning we were down here, it was still dark, it was woeful yesterday morning, but still a couple of guys getting out there early, Ross.
Yeah, and that's the comparison, because you can guys will practice any chance they can get, and girls, but right now there's no one out there, so it's just we'll have to see what the commissioner says, but it's pretty big out there.
Some of those outer banks starting to fire with the jump in the swell, Strider, but yesterday doing a little bit of a tour of this coastline at the moment. The setup here, it looks like the best option once those waves get in the 4-foot range.
Yeah, there's so much beach here. This thing is gigantic. You've got basically probably 3 miles of beach from start to finish down at La Gravière all the way up to the end, and there's just so much to pick from. But this bank right here is really good when the waves are like medium size, and that's at Knowles there. It's an interesting wave out here, though. There's so many different waves to find and pick from that you can literally go surf by yourself if you wanted to, or like you said yesterday, all the guys out here on top of each other. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, this location, La Cunu, pretty popular beach for for those liking a swim without too much on.
Yeah, get a tan.
Yes, all over tan. But let's have a look at the Surfline forecast here, Strider.
Yeah, we got plenty of surf on tap. We just have to hope that the winds come around the right way. But you can see that huge Joaquin storm came around the top, and it's pushing right at us, and it comes into the window and just throws swell down our pipe. So I can't wait to see that funnel in here. Hopefully, like we talked about, the winds cooperate.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. You mentioned it, Strider, is the wind. So, we're talking about the size and how it can be tricky when it's big, but if it's offshore, it's game on. But because the initial burst of this swell came with the onshore breeze, that northwest wind, it's really messy. So as soon as that wind drops off, which it's expected to, you can see it there, that wind was meant to drop off even as early as this afternoon, the conditions are really going to clean up.
But it does rise all day. I mean, look at the size of the swell, 8 to 12 feet towards the end of the day, and then it backs off again. But look at it, we got consistent surf all the way through the weekend. So hopefully, as that turns around, the winds go offshore, we'll see a lot of surfing get underway here.
Pretty exciting just to see that swell. I mean, this place serves up some of the best beach breaks in the world, Ross.
It really does. And here's the cool thing. It actually reminds me a bit of where I'm from in Hawaii, where you have to bring your mental game to France. It can really serve up punchy, heavy beach breaks or rippable lowers type of waves, and you have to have that frame of mind to be flexible, because you just don't know what you're going to get.
You got to adapt. Well, let's find out if we are going to get heats underway. We'll check in with Chelsea Cannell and the Commissioner, Kieran Perro.
Thanks so much, Ronnie. Kieran, I know that you had a bit of a difficult decision this morning, because while things aren't desirable right now, you were hoping that they might pick up into the afternoon. Will we see heats get underway later on? Will conditions clean up for us?
Yeah, it was a call that we needed to decide whether to come back later and hope that wind might drop off. Right now it's pretty strong onshore. The swells come up huge overnight, so a lot of swell. Right now the winds aren't great, so we're not going to come back. We're expecting it to stay pretty strong throughout the day, so no need to get everyone back here later on this afternoon. We'll come back tomorrow morning. We're expecting the next 3 days to be really good for conditions. Swell might come down a touch, but this bank's looking great out the front, and we should have some really good barrels.
So bummer, because we're off for today, but like you said, the next 3 days look really good. And you guys aren't going to want to go anywhere, because next up, Pete Mel is going to have 3-time world champion Tom Curran on the show. You won't want to miss it.
She's so good.
And welcome back to Dawn Patrol as we get to introduce a legend of our sport and one of my mentors. I always looked up. I always put that forearm emulating your style. Tom Curran, 3-time world champion. What brings you here to France? Besides we've got a couple surfboards here, but ultimately you've got a long history here in France.
Yeah, I'm here on a couple different reasons. I was here visiting the kids, and also Morris Cole is launching this retro model boards, so I came over here to join them in that, and then hopefully getting a lot of surf. I've been traveling a lot, but I haven't been getting that much surf yet, so hopefully get some surf.
And I tell you, I mean, with your history here at France, is there any favorite moments do you have back in the history of all these years you've been coming?
Yeah, we had a lot of, days when we'd be surfing the contest, it'd be like this, and, we had, limited schedule, and I'm looking at the waves now, and it looks like it'd be kind of fun to watch the contest now, but obviously it's going to be better later.
And you said you're working on a project with Morris Cole. I mean, you've been riding Channel Islands, and can you give us a little bit of the story of how you ended up transitioning that year in 1990 when you ended up riding these Morris Cole boards?
Yeah, there was a time around the late 80s, early 90s. I was staying a lot more in France, and I've been working with Al for so many years, and Morris was over here surfing and testing boards, and there was a period there where I had like 4 or 5 really good boards from Morris, and some of these are the boards. This one here is the 7.3. This one's a really good one, but this 7.3, I think you could probably surf it out here today. Pretty good.
And I mean, with this design though, this was something. I mean, everything's been done at some point and cycled through. I mean, but this was a design that was kind of at the forefront for you, especially when you came back from. You actually won the world title coming through the trials through each and every year. I mean, each and every event, which is a challenge in itself. But what was the difference in these boards that you were riding at this point in time?
These boards are really kind of a lot narrower, and they have what Morris has called the reverse V, which is basically a V through the whole board, and then through the fins it's just a bit flatter, and that doesn't quite go into a concave. But they were good, because at the same time there was a concave thing going on a lot, some of the real deep concaves, and so that's just I think a different kind of board for different kind of waves, and it's interesting to see what Morris is doing now. He was, we're kind of...
It's like the complete opposite, right?
Exactly. He's doing really extreme concaves. So I think sometimes you want the concave, sometimes you want V bottom. So.
And this one has the forward V and the reverse V, meaning that the V is actually through the front of the board. Which what was the real difference feel when you were actually riding these boards?
These ones, they're longer, but they just were real loose, and they transitioned into turns a lot easier than with concaves, where I think concaves tend to, they just really want to hold, I think. But I could be wrong about that, actually.
That's funny, because it's surfboards, right? And then every board's a little bit different. I mean, we have that shot of you at Backdoor, and you're riding a really big board, the 7.8, which is this size board here at Backdoor. Nowadays they're riding 6.6s, and this is a 7.8. What made you ride that board at that time?
Actually, that wave was like an in-between wave. It was a really good solid day at Backdoor, and I got there late, and I just picked out that little wave and did a little cutback, and Tom Survey, the photographer, pretty much got some mood thing there, and of course the board is 7.8, but and then just it's a great board,
And I got to ask you about like these days, and what your interpretation. I mean, you get to watch the events. What's changed in your mind? What has exponentially changed?
Well, I think the performances have they've gone above the lip. I think that's a major difference, and I think a lot of it's kind of the same. Boards have changed. I think I've been really interested in seeing what the boards are like now, and there's a lot of new innovations I think as well, and a lot of people are surfing on really different equipment, so I think that's going to come into play again, more. So
And what's your favorite thing that's been happening? We've got a mix of everything, so ultimately, what do you like watching the most?
I still like watching the epic matchups. For me, I think that's really what I can really, enjoy more is, watching surfing and, where I really want to watch the whole heat. I don't want to just see, what maneuver everybody was talking about. So I like to see, the kind of the real heavy push to get a win, and then I like the kind of the I don't know, what do you call this, the psychology of it. I like that too. It's pretty good.
All the competition, and I love it, and always so fun to watch you and compete, and I love watching you surf now these days. Tom Curran, thanks for joining us here on Dawn Patrol. When we come up, more stuff to talk about. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Dawn Patrol. How good was it to have one of surfing's immortals, Tom Curran, talking on the show with Pete Mel in that last segment? Ross, you look like you're enjoying that.
I've always been a major fan. My whole generation, all the dudes from the 90s grew up watching every single minute of Tom Curran on VHS tapes, just burning a hole through those tapes in our VCRs. But he was such a pioneer, not only with style. Everyone tried to mimic his style. We even heard Pete Mel saying that, but he was also the pioneer for equipment. We talk so much about how Kelly Slater has transcended equipment, but so did Tom Curran. Remember, he rode that 5.9 and huge Indo back in the day, way before it was cool to ride short boards.
Yeah, that's where Kelly Slater probably, he pulled that page out of his book. You're always watching somebody else. Somebody else has already done it. It's just how you're going to do it. And obviously Tom Curran set the bar early, and I was lucky enough to grow up in California and watch him surf the point breaks and just froth on the beach. You're just sitting there drooling, watching that style and his hands and his body torque and everything about it. I mean, it's amazing to watch somebody like Tom Curran surf the beautiful point breaks and then comes over here and crushes. Everywhere he goes, he crushes it. But I think the interview was awesome. The most amazing part to me was Peter Mills' fanny pack. He was wearing that in the whole interview. It was great.
Well, one of the big things about Tom is he's still a huge fan of surfing, and we heard him say he loves watching the tactics and the psychology of heat surfing unfold as much as he does the performances themselves, and that's very interesting. And we have some huge heats coming up in the first round of the Quiksilver Pro. Obviously some title implications, Ross, but one of the bigger heats for me is just the names in Heat 3.
A really cool psychology, the headspace for that heat. And also, it kind of it's related to Heat 4 in the women's. There's Owen Wright, Sebastian Zietz, and Dane Reynolds. I mean, you have three total different headspaces there. Dane Reynolds has nothing to lose. He's here, just having a shot here, being a wild card with Quiksilver. And then Sebastian Zietz sitting at 22, so he's right on a cut line. He's got all that in the balance. And then Owen possibly going for a world title. So a really cool mix of headspace.
That is, those are obviously, I want to see Dane. He's had a great event here before. I'd love to see him come back and have another one, kind of spoil a few runs for people that may, think they're going to be on their way to a world title. It'd be great to see him get in the mix and shake it up. I also can't wait for Heat 8. Heat 8 with Jeremy Flores and John back in the mix. And he's won here last year. If he could defend a title, it'd be awesome.
It sure would. Well, we mentioned those world title implications. Obviously, Mick and Adriano coming into this one in the top two spots. Let's see what their thoughts are going into event number 9.
For sure. I think it's always crucial to get results. I think you sometimes you can put too much pressure on yourself or not focus enough. But, I think once you come into these back ends, you sort of know what's up for grabs, and it's almost there. But in saying that, there's still so much more surfing to do, and 3 events, anything can happen, and you can go from hero to zero really quick.
I'm trying to fight my first world title. He got 3 already, so he's more deserving than ever to earn the yellow jersey, and I'm not feel bad for that thing. He just killed the last event and deserved to be in the front row. And the only thing I need to do is work hard and see what I can do here in France.
Pretty interesting coming into event number 9. Mick Fanning, he had one of the greatest comebacks in competitive surfing history, going into Trestles back in 2009. I think he was in 8th position, climbed the ratings, ended up winning in France, winning in Portugal, and getting the win from Joel Parkinson at the Pipe Masters. And this year he comes into this event in 1st position. So would be feeling quite comfortable, you'd think.
You know what's so great about Mick Fanning is obviously he's strong in Australia. Bells, he always smashes it. But and I don't know what it is about Europe, but he comes here. I think it's basically his headspace. He is so strong. You could even see in that interview just his eyes. The body language is very confident. He's not second guessing himself, and that means a lot, especially when the conditions are so unpredictable in Europe.
That's kind of Mick's thing. He's so good at adapting in all conditions, and it's the reason he's the most winning surfer here in Europe.
Just the Iceman. I mean, you can see it in his eyeballs. He's just like ready for anything that comes at him, and he's just so settled and knows exactly what he needs to do to take this thing out. And you know, it's just going to be hard for somebody to catch him.
It is. Well, earlier on we spoke about the likely bank that will be surfing here at the Quiksilver and Roxy Pro. Let's have a closer look at it now with Jeremy Flores.
It's crazy because you never know what to expect. Even me, I mean, I live here in France, in Hossegor. I could be training in this one bank knowing there's a comp coming, but next thing you know, there's a swell and a week after it's gone. There's 2 peaks. When it's small, there's a little fun little trestles right and left peak. It's called a Cunu. 300 meters north, there's an outside bank called the Guardian, which is exactly the same as the bank last year. I'm pretty confident on these banks. They look pretty good, and the swells that's coming looks pretty good too. This event's been well known for the barrels. Every year we get crazy barrels. You know, we had some really good memories of everyone getting the biggest tubes. But you know, this is the most rippable banks too when it's small. So any condition is going to be exciting to watch. Those 2 banks I just explained, we might not even be surfing them in the comp. Who knows, if there's a better bank more north or more south, then we're out there. For me, I mean, this is the hardest event on tour. That's what makes it so special too.
Welcome back. You are watching Dawn Patrol. Perhaps the biggest story coming into event number 9 is, of course, Courtney Conalog's chance to potentially win her first world title. If Carissa Moore is knocked out before a 9th place finish, then Courtney, she can take it if she gets the job done and she wins this contest. It's big news for Courtney, of course, who has been pegged for a long time, Ross, to really challenge for that title.
The good news for Courtney, obviously she's got to work left, and she'll need Carissa to get 9th or worse here, which is pretty slim to none for that to happen. But Courtney is a monster in big punchy beach breaks, so I think for her, the bigger, the messier, the more it's to her advantage. You know, growing up in Huntington, she's used to these kind of conditions, Strider.
She is, and Strider, we're going to get some reactions to these interviews in a moment. Courtney Conalog and Carissa Moore heading into what could be a world title showdown right here in France.
I just want to get a barrel. I'm really excited for the swell and can't wait. The sandbars look absolutely amazing, so I'm just rubbing my hands waiting for that morning when we show up and it's like offshore and just perfect.
For sure. I mean, I've had some really amazing surf sessions here in France, and I really like the beach breaks. I have to admit they're really challenging and sometimes hard to adapt to. So, I mean, I didn't grow up surfing beach breaks, so they're pretty challenging for me, but I'm looking forward to stepping up and hopefully figuring it out.
Strider, what do you take from those 2 interviews? Because Courtney, very confident. Carissa, just admitting that France isn't actually one of her preferred stops.
Well, you know, she's got world titles, but she still has holes. She still has kinks in her armor, which she pointed out herself, which I don't like. I like to see the confidence of Courtney. She's coming into this thing, and Ross, you know, he said it best. She loves beach breaks. She loves big, heavy waves. She comes from California where there's a lot of beach breaks that she gets to deal with, and that's the thing that's going to be in her corner, and she's got a lot of experience out there. And, you know, Carissa doesn't. She's from Hawaii, reef breaks, and she'll have to prove herself here. Let's
have a look at the numbers now, because we know that we're getting to that point where you can start looking at some adjustments on the ratings too. These competitors are going to drop their 2 worst results from the season at the year's end, but at the moment Courtney out in front.
Yeah, and so right there you can see Carissa's in second, but she's got 2 ninths. So when you chuck those to the side, look what happens. Boom. She gets shifted straight to first place. So, and you know, frankly, we've been talking about it a bit, you guys. I like it. It allows you to have a slip up here and there, be a little more volatile, grab the wins. The wins is what it's all about.
Yeah, you know, not being on tour ever, I'm like I just want to see every event count. And with you being on tour, you actually get to feel that ability or that chance to go out there and do something crazy and actually, you know, let it go for a little bit and not have to be so super consistent all the way through.
Yeah, I think it just allows you to, it's kind of like the microcosm of the top 2 waves instead of top 4 way back in the day. And rather than chipping away at 6.5s, go for broke, get the wins, and, you know, allow for a little more exciting surfing.
We've already discussed it a little bit, but for me, I think Courtney has to make a move here. She has to get a big jump on Carissa before that last event. Even though she performed well, Carissa was so dominant at Maui last season.
That wave is tailor-made for her. And Carissa has Stephanie Gilmore and Sage in her heat in Heat 4, which is a really cool matchup. But yeah, Honolulu Bay, Carissa Moore. Whoa, hey, I got excited.
Hey, we're on the edge of our seats here with this world title race starting to intensify. Well, make sure you check in tomorrow morning for Dawn Patrol kicking off at 8 a.m. In the meantime, check out worldsurfleague.com. Some fantastic stories and features you can get into right there.